The voiceless palato-alveolar sibilant fricative. A voiceless domed postalveolar sibilant fricative is a type of consonantal sound used in languages, including English. In English, it is usually represented in writing with sh, as in ship. The symbol in the International Phonetic Alphabet that represents this sound is the letter sh, introduced by Isaac Pitman. The equivalent X-SAMPA symbol is S. An alternative symbol is S and S with a caron hatchek, which is used in the Americanist phonetic notation and the Uralic phonetic alphabet, as well as in the scientific and ISO 9 transliterations of Cyrillic. It originated with the Czech orthography of Jan Hus and was adopted in Gage's Latin alphabet and other Latin alphabets of Slavic languages. It also features in the orthographies of many Baltic, Finno-Lappic, North American and African languages. Features of the voiceless palato-alveolar fricative. Its manner of articulation is sibilant fricative, which means it is generally produced by channeling airflow along a groove in the back of the tongue up to the place of articulation, at which point it is focused against the sharp edge of the nearly clenched teeth, causing high-frequency turbulence. Its place of articulation is palato-alveolar, that is, domed postalveolar, which means it is articulated with the blade of the tongue behind the alveolar ridge, and the front of the tongue bunched up at the palate. Its phonation is voiceless, which means it is produced without vibrations of the vocal cords. In some languages the vocal cords are actively separated, so it is always voiceless. In others the cords are lax, so that it may take on the voicing of adjacent sounds. It is an oral consonant, which means air is allowed to escape through the mouth only. It is a central consonant, which means it is produced by directing the airstream along the center of the tongue, rather than to the sides. The airstream mechanism is pulmonic, which means it is articulated by pushing air solely with the lungs and diaphragm, as in most sounds. Occurrence. In various languages, including English and French, it may have simultaneous labialization, i.e., although this is usually not transcribed. Classical Latin did not have, though it does occur in most Romance languages. For example, ch in French chanteur, singer, is pronounced. Chanteur is descended from Latin canter, where c was pronounced k. Sc in Latin scientia, science, was pronounced sk, but has shifted to in Italian scienza. Similarly, Proto-Germanic had neither nor, yet many of its descendants do. In most cases, this descends from a Proto-Germanic sk. For instance, Proto-Germanic *skipper was pronounced ski, p. The English word ship, p, has been pronounced without the sk, the longest, the word being descended from Old English scip, ip, which already also had the, though the Old English spelling etymologically indicated that the old sk had once been present. This change took a good bit longer to catch on in West Germanic languages other than Old English, but it eventually did. The second West Germanic language to undergo this sound shift was Old High German. In fact, it has been argued that Old High German's sk was actually already, because a single had already shifted to. Furthermore, by Middle High German, the second k had shifted to. After High German, the shift most likely then occurred in Low Saxon. After Low Saxon, Middle Dutch began the shift, but it stopped shifting once it reached Essex, and has kept that pronunciation since then, most likely through influence from German and Low Saxon. North Frisian experienced the shift. Then, Swedish quite swiftly underwent the shift, which resulted in the very uncommon phoneme, which, aside from Swedish, Swedish is only used in Kolonian, a variety of High German, though not as a replacement for the standard High German, but a coronalized C. However, the exact realization of Swedish varies considerably among dialects. For instance, in northern dialects it tends to be realized as CSJ sound. For more details. Finally, the last to undergo the shift was Norwegian, in which the result of the shift was the sound in Russian denoted by is commonly transcribed as a palato-alveolar fricative but is actually a laminal retroflex fricative, voiceless postalveolar non-sibilant fricative. The voiceless postalveolar non-sibilant fricative is a consonantal sound, as the International Phonetic Alphabet does not have separate symbols for the postalveolar consonants. This sound is usually transcribed. The equivalent X-SAMPA symbol is R__0_R. Features its manner of articulation is fricative, which means it is produced by constricting airflow through a narrow channel at the place of articulation, causing turbulence. However, it does not have the groove tongue and directed airflow, or the high frequencies of a sibilant. Its place of articulation is postalveolar, which means it is articulated with either the tip or the blade of the tongue behind the alveolar ridge. Its phonation is voiceless, which means it is produced without vibrations of the vocal cords. In some languages the vocal cords are actively separated, so it is always voiceless. In others the cords are lax, so that it may take on the voicing of adjacent sounds. It is an oral consonant, which means air is allowed to escape through the mouth only. It is a central consonant, which means it is produced by directing the airstream along the center of the tongue, rather than to the sides. The airstream mechanism is pulmonic, which means it is articulated by pushing air solely with the lungs and diaphragm, as in most sounds. Occurrence bibliography.